This is You've Already Been Hacked, recorded on April 8th, 2025. Welcome back to You've Already Been Hacked. This week, Securing Our Future, a deep dive into cybersecurity challenges and solutions. In this episode, we're going to delve into some of the critical landscape items in cybersecurity, exploring various challenges and solutions that impact both individuals and large organizations. From human error to sophisticated cyber threats, we're going to discuss how these elements shape security strategies. In our top story, the human element in cybersecurity. People are a cybersecurity liability, but there might also be a solution. And I know that's going to ruffle some feathers just by saying it, that it is not just the software, that it is the people. Human error as a vulnerability. People often serve as the weakest link in cybersecurity, leading to breaches due to poor practices, such as, say, weak passwords or falling for phishing, or let's see, what's another one that I could come up with, Cowboy? Oh, yeah. Plugging in random USB drives into your corporate network. All sorts of fun stuff like that occurs.
Look, if I find a USB drive, I'm plugging it in. I'm just saying.
Yeah. Well, not even like let's go with a more realistic scenario on that, right? What do we have coming up in August? We have Black Hat, right? Well, and RSA just recently happened, and all the stuff that's given away at those conferences, and you're going to tell me that everyone there is on the pinnacle end of the spear with their cyber knowledge, and no one is going to take anything they got from any of these events and do something like just nonchalant and plug it into either their personal or corporate computer systems. I would say I wouldn't believe that.
There's a reason people still turn their phones off and don't bring them to these things.
This is very true. So what do we do about this? We have to raise awareness through education campaigns. And we've talked about education in a few of our previous episodes over the past few weeks. I say get them while they're young, start young, and ingrain in people's minds the need to be cyber hygiene healthy. Having a multi-generation workforce, such as we do now, that's a little more complicated. I think it's going to get better. Sadly, I don't think it's really going to get a lot better until, I don't know, Gen Z really is in the driver's seat, because they will be the ones that were really the most impacted by cybersecurity as a conscious thought, not as a bolt-on. You and me being part of Gen X, our generation, we are the digital divide. We know the difference between analog and digital. We grew up with both. We're more savvy than our parents or our grandparents for sure, but I wouldn't say everyone in our generation is cyber secure. I would not even, wouldn't even say half.
Not even half.
A
quarter, maybe.
If we're lucky.
Maybe, yeah.
I think also when we think about people as the human error, a long time ago in the professor's career history, I worked a help desk, and I also worked level 2 support, actually going out to people's cubicles and assisting them, and because couldn't help them over the phone sort of stuff. We pejoratively, when we would get back to our confined little IT space away from reality, one of the things we used to say is the problem was somewhere between the keyboard and the chair, for most of the things that went wrong. And while that's very, it's not cool, it's funny, bad funny, but not cool. It turns out not entirely untrue. People want to be able to take the path of least resistance, and a lot of times the path of least resistance is a highly vulnerable path.
I mean, look at Windows Vista as a great example, right?
Oh, wow.
Very secure operating system, and people hated it because they didn't want to change and they didn't want to learn, and it wasn't user friendly, and so inambiguously failed, if you will, because of that. Right?
Yeah,
that's why the CIA triad you weigh all the different things, and accessibility, is one of those things that you weigh.
So, what Cyber Cowboy means by CIA triad, just for our listeners, is confidentiality, integrity, and availability, not the particular U.S. agency. Just for clarity.
Not the
Um,
secret scrolls.
no, not the secret squirrels. So, yeah, human error is as a company scales, while human error is still of great concern, it's more impactful for businesses of 100 people or less, which would make a lot of sense, right? Those are the ones that don't have as many resources, may not have dedicated cybersecurity personnel. Um, a whole myriad of things can just be lined up so that one mistake from one person causes a much bigger problem. Again, though, I think as you scale out, one mistake can still cause a very big problem, but there are more safeguards in place at that point, one would hope, that allows for those type of errors or situations to be caught at speed. I mean, even on some of the corporate networks that I've worked in over the years, they have a form of continuous monitoring on the end device where you even try to change an administrative privilege and somebody's giving you a phone call. So I mean, that as draconian as it sounds, it's actually a good thing from cyber health.
Yeah, and if we look at some of the statistics on small businesses, right, 46% of all cyber breaches uh, with impacted businesses with fewer than 1,000 employees. 82% of ransomware attacks in 2021 were against companies with less than 1,000 employees. 37% of companies hit by ransomware had fewer than 100 employees, right? So they're targeted for sure. Why, as we've said, they probably don't have much, if any, cybersecurity training in place.
Yeah, and that's why I say get them while they're young, right? Like if we can implement this, as we've said in previous weeks, if we can get people while they're still in the education apparatus, and just get that into the norm of their thinking, I think that will go. It won't fix the problem, but it will go a long way to helping to mitigate some of the more generalized problems we face today with phishing and opening up erroneous links and plugging devices into your systems that you just shouldn't trust and all sorts of stuff like that. For that'll take away the low end attack vectors. Then just like we've talked about before, the sophistication level goes up, which means the level of education needs to go up. So it's going to be a never ending battle, but you got to start somewhere.
Absolutely.
Speaking of a never ending battle, Cowboy, over to you for our next story.
All right. Next story, FBI's warning of BADBOX 2.0 hijacking Android Internet of Things devices. So, for those that aren't familiar with the original BADBOX campaign, it was roughly defeated only a year ago, and then boom, BADBOX 2.0 malware is out and running rampant. Over a million Android devices, including smart TVs, streaming boxes, projectors, tablets, you name it, have been compromised by BADBOX 2.0 malware, which turns them into nodes into a global botnet. Most folks don't realize that this sophisticated malware campaign is even affecting their devices because it doesn't actually make changes that a common user would notice. It just uses it as a bot. If anything, you might see it slow down if the malware begins using up resources either on the device or within your home bandwidth. It
That's
targets,
that's
again,
really
pretty much
incredible. That
anything Android. Yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say that's really incredible that um it's impacting so many devices that it doesn't need to create a lot of noise per device in order to still cause a level of havoc. It's able to do its work hiding in the noise so that the general population doesn't even know that they're impacted. That's crazy.
Right. It's also pre-installed or infected during setup. Often pre-installed on low-cost devices, many that happen to come out of China. Weird.
Well, I've heard this before in tech circles where um, a lot of those Android TV devices that aren't from reputable or name brand places, um, There's been forensic work done on those, and they are just like riddled with malware out of the box. So uh that's just horrifying to think about, and it makes me wonder, like, why not. I don't think it's that there's a campaign particularly there, like a nation state actor doing something, but how is all that malware ending up on these devices in the first place? Because if it's happening at manufacturing, it's got to be intentional, no?
Yeah, it is definitely. I think it's and it reads more criminal based, right? Because you've got ad fraud, data exfiltration, credential stuffing, uh, pulling the data off of the machines. I mean, think about your smart TV, right? You've got all of your streaming apps in there, so you've got your Netflix login and your um, uh, Amazon login and all the logins that they can easily pull that data off of and really go from there. So very crime focused
And
vice
like we said, the
traditional state
majority of the
actor.
general population
And then
is
they could
not
use
going to
that to
notice
do
that.
attacks though on other legitimate targets, right? It's still part of the botnet, and your Internet of Thing device could be part of a larger distributed denial of service attack on someone.
Yeah, and the general population that is not, probably not our core audience, not going to notice it, not going to be even aware that spending $25 for that streaming device as opposed to, unfortunately, say 100 from a reputable brand might be a strong word, but a known brand, right? Maybe compromising them just out of the box, and by the time they realize it, it's going to be too late.
Yeah, and because these users already don't do this, right? The FBI urging users to scrutinize your devices for red flags. People don't know to look for these things. Unofficial apps decide, who goes and looks for if their play protect is disabled. No one's monitoring their network traffic, looking for suspicious traffic. That's for sure, right? So at the end of the day, without some type of automated fix, unfortunately, most of these users, millions of them, are just going to stay infected.
Well, I don't know about you, but I definitely do look at my network traffic every now and again to see what's going on.
I mean, those of us in the field should, at a minimum, have Wireshark running and seeing what is running across our things. But we're the diamonds in the rough,
Exceptions to the rule, yes,
right?
I would agree. And you can just see here in the digital SOC, in our cyber SOC, we see everything that's happening. That's what every one of these screens is telling us, every attack that's happening in real time. Which, if you weren't aware, that's frightening because it's all sorts of stuff constantly.
It is a lot. All right, let's move on to our next story. So,
So what did the
cyber.
FBI?
Oh,
FBI. I'm sorry, I missed this. The FBI urged them to scrutinize devices for red flags, but how are people going to even know that these red flags are there? That's what we're talking about. Like, thank you, FBI, but like, I'm Joe Person. What am I supposed to do?
right. Joe Person doesn't know what Wireshark is, right? They're not going in and looking for this type of stuff. The best I think Joe user can do is if they start noticing slowdowns. That's about the best red flag the average user could see is if stuff's not acting right.
And
But
then
yeah,
usually one of the two things that'll happen is they'll either reset it. So
yeah,
if it's in the firmware, that's going to do nothing, or they're going to toss it and get something else, which
yeah.
maybe that'll do something.
Or call up their internet service provider and start yelling why their bandwidth is slow.
Or Cyber Cowboy to be their IT support.
That's right. 1-800 Cyber Cowboy. I'm available 24/7, 365.
I could say
Just
so much
for
to that.
for a small fee.
He
All
works
right.
off he works off of
Yeah,
of Litecoin. Everybody.
I do. Litecoin and whiskey. Okay, in our next story, cyber attacks hit United Natural Food Incorporation, who are a United States grocery supply chain, disrupting their distributing operations. So, if I want to take you back a few years ago to the great TP scare of 2020 ish, we got a good look at what happens at our grocery stores when we have disruption of distribution operations. Uh, thank God for grocery stores because I'm a bad hunter. I don't even know where sandwiches live. But um, UNFI, a distributor for Whole Foods, which has over 30,000 grocery stores, detected unauthorized activity in June of 2025, prompting a widespread shutdown of their internal IT systems. Right? When in doubt, shut it all down. They are the largest publicly traded wholesale food distributor, so they're took about a $300 million market cap hit. Somewhere between 7 and 18% of their stock declined from this. They
Wow.
lost. They had some contracts terminated. They had to get cyber forensic teams and law enforcement involved. The IT outage temporarily blocked order processing and deliveries, leaving a lot of retail shelves mostly empty, affecting dairy, frozen foods, snacks. I love snacks, and more. All at Whole Food and independent grocers alike. And it's bad for independent grocers, especially because typically those are small town
Right.
grocers, and they cannot take the hit like that.
And did you have any follow up? Do we know it had their has their supply chain restarted? I mean, this was what 8 days ago now. I would hope so at this point. Otherwise, yeah, it's gonna be a massive problem.
Yeah, it does not say as always.
Right.
Um,
Well, let's assume that if we go to the grocery store this weekend, that food's going to be on the shelves, right? But even a temporary, like you said, a temporary supply chain hit, a $300 million market cap tanking. That's a pretty significant blip for a attack against a food distributor. And
yeah,
one of the things we've touched on, I don't know if we've talked on it a lot when we've talked about what's going on in retail, but when you start going after critical infrastructure, and I don't think people think about food distribution as critical infrastructure, but it is because, as Cyber Cowboy said, he doesn't know where to go hunt down sandwiches. Um, that's most people today. Like most people are not going to know what to do when their whatever their food stores are run out if they can't go down to the local grocery market and get something. And that's that leads down to your Mad Max type of scenarios, which you don't need to go down that rabbit hole. But yeah, that's a terrifying thing. Like people think of hospitals as critical infrastructure, roads, bridges, water systems, but yeah, food distribution. I put that right on that list.
yeah, and like you said, it's one of the things people don't think about. I do as a cowboy and as a general. I'll say baby prepper, if you will. I think about that a lot. Like if I can't get down to my Smiths or Super Walmart, right? What am I doing? Now, luckily, I'm just kidding. I know exactly where sandwiches live. They burrow 6 feet under the ground. But I've had family members who straight up said, like, "Yeah, an apocalypse, I'm dead in the first week because I can't take care of myself outside of first world order."
Right.
Which when I heard her say that, kind of took me back. I was like, "Dang, I never really heard anyone just be so openly blunt about that." But unfortunately, I think more of our society than not couldn't couldn't survive in that link. So yeah, if you see, uh, surprised that like food distribution isn't considered a critical infrastructure because even the smallest disruption, right? So I did read that they are back up and running now, but the smallest disruption, 2 days you have empty shelves,
Yeah.
right? High turnover food items, 2 days, boop, empty shelves. No milk, no eggs, um, frozen food, like they're just not
It's
there,
gone.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're not getting it.
Yeah.
So scary.
Yeah. I mean, I would hope that those that within the protection apparatus, DHS, CISA, FBI, those types, do have food distribution on their list of critical infrastructure. I just don't think that people think of it as critical infrastructure. Why? Because it's usually there, right? And we've never really seen food distribution be a point that is attacked at least that I can recall, in a significant way. We've seen gas lines, we've seen water systems, we've seen hospitals, we've seen dams, we've seen bridges. All of that we see it. Food distribution, though, like, doesn't it register in my head as something else that's been regularly attacked by a cyber entity. But now, if it is going to start becoming a target such as this, you're right. 2 days without it, high turnover items are gone. A week if they're down, oof. I
Yeah,
hope you
and then you have
I hope you can
panic.
find something.
Yeah, and then you have panic. That's all it takes.
Yeah.
5 days, I think, Matt. This is Cyber Cowboy's opinion, but 5 days of empty shelves, and you have mass panic setting in, and that's how quickly things turn.
Well, we have an analog for that in our recent past, right? Just look between the years of the late 2019 through 2022 for the breakdown in just-in-time delivery type of infrastructure, and you can see what happened in certain areas.
Yeah, gave us a glimpse.
Okay. What else do we got here? We got uh, our next story: how the cybersecurity industry is trying to keep up with foreign threat actors. Very apropos that the last story would lead into this. So, foreign cyber actors are targeting critical infrastructure, energy grids, the financial system, food distribution. I'll just add that in there as an asterisk, and posing significant risks to national security. Companies are adopting advanced technologies like AI and zero trust architectures to contract these threats. The challenge that these companies have is that it is an ever evolving race that requires constant innovation and proactive measures. So, we've talked about zero trust before as an architecture, which, just to recap for everybody, zero trust is nothing in your environment do you believe from creation is clean. Everything is a compromise point. So you build multiple checks and guards within your environment, and it doesn't have to be non-user friendly checks and guards, but you build checks and guards into your environment so that so that you don't fall into the false sense of trusting either your personnel or your environment from a cyber security perspective. I'm not saying do not trust your employees. That is a completely different conversation. As for AI, yeah, you see across the cybersecurity industry now, all of them are racing towards some sort of AI real-time monitoring type of situation. If you recall, a few weeks back, we talked about how CrowdStrike laid off a good chunk of their workforce because they were replacing it with AI capability. This is a thing. AI, for better or worse, can just move through the data faster than we can. So it's going to be able to detect things that we're going to miss, and that's just a fact. If you want to argue about hallucinations and stuff with large language models, and that's fine. I still think that's going to get sorted out faster than it will for us as an industry to not engage things in real time.
Yeah, I think the biggest problem right now, personally, is there's too many companies using it as a buzzword and faking their way through it. And I think you're going to see small to medium sized businesses think they're getting a good AI model and they're not, and they're being bamboozled.
Well,
And that's
but
something that
that
really
happens
bothers
every
me
time. It happens every time
every
in our
time.
industry, right? So AI is the buzzword du jour now. If you don't have AI in your company, or in your name or in your product, why am I buying it? 10 years ago, it was if you didn't have cyber as part of what you were selling, um, it didn't matter, right? So I think that that's cyclical and that will get sorted out. But you're right. In the meantime, there's going to be casualties, which is very unfortunate. Yeah.
Yep, I've been at conferences where me and the team have gone over and listened to the pitch and start poking holes and seeing how well they can or can't answer something. And um, even Cyber Cowboys spousal unit the other day asked me about these companies that say they have AI, and I'm like, yeah, that's stupid. There's no reason the product they're selling you would have AI in it. They're just saying that, to sound cool, to sound like, oh, you're getting this super advanced technology. Like, no, you're not. Nope.
Ugh. Um, yeah, I don't know what else to say on that. I just
It's
But
important, and we're going to
yeah,
mature as we go.
as with all things, right? But I think that the key takeaway, I guess, is really, um, no matter, it is an ever evolving situation, and we have to continue to be proactive, right? So if there is a legitimate new tool that does not add to the overhead of the human operator that is responsible for your cybersecurity apparatus, right? Because tool exhaustion is a real thing in the cybersecurity industry. But if there is a new tool that shows itself to be accurate, faster, predictive, um, and can take some of the load off of the analytic work, so that your response can be faster. And in some cases, if you could automate response, even better, as long as you are sure about the type of response that's being automated. I'm all for it. Anything that can take some of the load off, I'm a 100% supporter of.
Yes, yes. Please, companies, leaders, stop being scared of automated response. Just do
Yeah,
your due diligence in what you pick and how you implement it. That's all,
I
right?
agree.
You're not going to shut down operations with automated response. You could if you don't do your due diligence and you don't take proactive steps. But you, we're there. Just do it. Get over it.
All right, on that note, U.S. banks are deeply concerned about cybersecurity risks following an attack on a top financial regulator. A cyber attack against the major financial regulator has heightened concerns among banks about their own cybersecurity preparedness. The financial institutions are reviewing their security protocols, adopting advanced encryption, and conducting regular threat assessments. The incident against this regulator, and I'm sorry, I misplaced the name, Cowboy, if you have it for us, underscores the need for stronger cybersecurity measures to protect sensitive data. And you hear stories coming out of at least the biggest U.S. banks, right? J.P. Morgan Chase, and places like that, where they are bifurcating their data centers into like walled gardens so that they are air gapped from anything else because of the fear that there's going to be compromise. And those major banks, just by example, if they're late by 30 or 45 minutes in their daily transaction load, that's complete havoc to the system.
Yes, and so it was the Office of the Comptroller of the Currencies
Oh my.
email system
Oh my
that
god.
got
Oh,
breached.
well,
OCC. Yep.
luckily only their email system as far as we know.
Yes. So a whole bunch of different banking associations. I'm not going to read them all. 4 or 5 of them penned a letter. Pen? Did they actually write it?
pen,
Maybe
pen
typed.
means right.
Typed.
Pen means
Yeah.
right.
Typed a letter to the U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, outlining their concerns, basically saying like, "Hey, are we ready? Are we prepared?"
That's that's just frightening that the comptroller of the currencies is getting compromised. But again,
Yeah.
just by what you just that little nugget you gave us, right? It was through email, which means somebody probably got phished inside their corporate networks. Probably a PDF or a Word doc or an Excel doc that had a macro on it, something like that. That's all postulation on my part. But that's how easy it can be.
Yep. 150,000 emails after first compromising the system, actually back in May of 23. So I'm guessing some insider information came out, finally, that caused them to pen their concern.
Let's see, what else do we have here that's worth talking about this week. Let's go past story, the discerning story, and we'll hit this last one here. We'll get everybody on their way to going back to securing their own networks. The DSTA BrainHack 2025 cybersecurity competition recorded 4,300 students nationwide joining in this year, which is fantastic that many students were involved. The event attracted a significant number of students, highlighting the growing interest in cybersecurity among young people. Yes, That's what I want to hear. Such competitions foster problem-solving skills and inspire future professionals in the field. We hope, as Cowboy and I have said, that the barrier to entry into the field can't get so high that we don't get junior people in, so that we can make them experienced. But I think this is a good sign. The Brain Hack 2025 provided platforms for talent identification, mentorship, contributed to the pipeline of overall skilled cybersecurity workforce. Cowboy, you know a little something about putting on cybersecurity competition, don't you?
I do. And by the way, DSTA is the Defense Science and Technology Agency. So if you actually just Google DSTA Brain Hack, they've got pretty cool landing page. And so, as part of my daily job, I help put on cyber capture the flag events across the United States and Mexico to help bring in these students and foster competition and challenge them and push their thinking into new and better dimensions within the cyber sphere and cyberspace. And so I've said it before, these are crucial to not only keeping students engaged, but pushing their education, their boundaries, but also introducing them to industry and government and bringing government industry to their future. I've seen a lot of kids, pretty much get jobs right out of these things.
Yeah, I've been fortunate enough to be at a couple of Cyber Cowboys events, hosted events. The turnout is always amazing. The kids, college students, high school students, are amazingly smart and super creative in how they end up solving some of the problems that Cowboy has thrown out in front of them. So I'm a big supporter of these events too. I think they should happen at all grade levels. I don't think this should be limited to college and high school. I think you go down to middle school where there's already some computer literacy, and the events don't need to be as complex at that level, but it's just something to get these kids thinking and trying to do that problem solving as early as possible, as appropriate for their age, I think would be a good thing.
Yeah, there are, 25-point entry level challenges that I think middle schoolers literally could knock out fairly easily. So I agree. You start early, you create talent model paths where we can grow these kids up and create their career trajectory as early as 5th, 6th grade.
I cannot imagine what a cybersecurity competition with over 4,000 people in it would look like if it was all in person. That's just got to be so many wire. Yeah. It would probably look like it not as big, but it would probably look like what the Las Vegas Convention Center looks like when DEF CON is in town. It would just be crazy amounts of wires and electronics and monitors and laptops all over the place. It'd probably be a really, really interesting sight.
Yeah, they'd have to kick up some of the nuclear reactors for some power.
Take them away from all the AI farms that are taking over these old reactors at this point. That's right. Man. All right, Cowboy, anything else for us tonight, sir?
Yeah. So remember, folks, your security stack is only as strong as Bob in accounting, who just gave his credentials to IT support at 2 a.m. Stay frosty. I'm your Cyber Cowboy.
And I'm your professor of CyberRisk. And that's the news this week. We'll talk again soon. If you like this podcast, share it with your colleagues and friends. Your support is how we are able to continue to make this content. Thank you.